Good morning. I'm sure that you know by now that the Charity Commission for England and Wales has produced a report on, here it is, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Britain. It started because of reports of CSA within the organisation. Now, Watchtower's response to all this has been their viewpoint, as pointed out on page 14. The JW state they do not separate children from their parents during any of their religious activities, so they fought the inquiry tooth and nail. However, ICSA said, because of this, they failed to recognise that the mere presence of parents does not prevent those in positions of trust from developing inappropriate relationships with children. And that is evident because on page 18 we note that the Watchtower branch in Britain received 67 reports during the last 10 years. 25 of these were about elders, 32 were against ministerial servants, and 10 were within the institutional context. Very bad, Watchtower. Anyway, I'll try and tell you the story as briefly as possible because the report's quite long. On page 3, we note that an inquiry was started in 2007 and it found that the Watchtower Society didn't have a child protection policy at all. And that's evident because so many children got hurt by Watchtower's dreadful man-made judicial system, and also because of predators and various other policies. So we come to page 4, and what happened here was that a child protection policy was in place, but the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children advised the Charity Commission that this policy was at odds with the UK legislation and guidance. Now, also in 2011, Watchtower set up another entity named the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. It wasn't connected to the charity Watchtower Society. And the Charity Commission notes this. At this point, 2011, the trustees did not clearly set out to the Commission that it was no longer responsible for the drafting and dissemination of the safeguarding policy. They hid it as much as they could. Consequently, an inquiry was started in 2014, May. Watchtower, as usual, took them to court to try to stop the inquiry. So this resulted in a huge delay because, of course, it was in court, and it went on until December 2016, and you can see what they did on page 17. I'll put the links below. But basically, Watchtower kept appealing decisions against them, and it ended up in the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court did not uphold their arguments. Consequently, the inquiry was allowed to go ahead. However, as we see on page 6, from December 2016 to December 2019, the inquiry was of the view that the trustees' communications were protracted. The charity's responses often failed to provide the information requested or sufficient clarity to satisfy the inquiry, so of course it meant delays. Now, what had caused this problem is set out on page 9. And the Charity Commission write this: there has been a lack of clarity over the role and governance of the Britain branch office of Jehovah's Witnesses. It says that the role of the governing body in the United States in setting spiritual guidance, which includes the safeguarding policy, was not clear in the early stages of the inquiry. This created confusion for the inquiry, leading to delays. I can remember discussing this on the telephone with the Charity Commission, who were extremely kind. And I tried to explain to them that the, sorry, apologies, the Watchtower Society of Britain couldn't do a thing unless it was okayed by the governing body in the States. But of course the Charity Commission had to find this out for themselves, and they didn't do so until May 21. Watchtower hid it. The governing body in the US was not going to have a Charity Commission in the UK telling them what they should do with their religion. It's bad, Watchtower. It's completely against Scripture. So, just for the moment, I would like to read what it says in the first letter of Peter, chapter 2, apologies, and verse 1. It says, "Be done with every trace of wickedness and all deceit." Verse 13, "Be submissive to every human institution and authority for the sake of the Lord." The Watchtower Society of Britain had to do what the governing body said, not what the government said. This resulted in huge delays in the inquiry. It's against Scripture. Watchtower, please obey the Bible and not the governing body. I'll try and formulate some other verses on this matter during the week, but I'll leave you with that and the link below. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.